Hey everybody, today we are talking about Soulmates by Susan Lee. Soulmates is a story of Hannah Cho and Jacob Kim and their friendship and the hard times that it has gone through in the past 3 years. So essentially we start out learning about Hannah Cho and her perspective, and then it goes back and forth between hers and Jacob's perspective for the majority of the book, kind of just does this back and forth thing. So essentially, Jacob and Hannah had been separated when they were just going into high school. Jacob had to leave because unfortunately his father passed away when he was just about high school age, and the family thought it best that they go to Korea. And so by doing this, he had to leave Hannah behind, who he's been friends with for basically his whole life. And he had a really hard time accepting this. At first, they thought it was just going to be a temporary thing to get something sorted out financially, trying to figure out where to go after they lost their dad much sooner than they expected. And it ended up becoming something where he had to stay there. And Hannah felt very betrayed by this, felt that he just left her, and she just had to fend for herself alone in high school. And so she really did not appreciate this, so much to the point where she cut off all contact with him and they stopped speaking for 3 years. She moved on, she got a boyfriend, Nate, and they are going to head into the summer before their senior year, and it's going to be lovely, and then their senior year is going to be amazing, and they're just going to have all these things to look forward to. And Hannah feels really good about this until one night at a party, Nate decides that they should break up. And it just threw her off so much. She didn't think that it would make any sense for them to break up, but he just insisted that they had nothing in common. And so there she is, feeling like she's going to be alone again for the summer and throughout her senior year. So she's very determined, because Nate says that they have nothing in common. She's very determined to change that and make things be in common with him, and she's going to try to win him back. That's her summer plan now that her original plans with Nate are gone. So this is basically where our story starts, is with her coming up with this plan. And very soon after that, her mother drops this bombshell news that Jacob Kim is going to be living with them over the summer along with his mom and sister. They're going to come, they're going to have a vacation in San Diego, and they're going to stay there and live with them for a couple of months so that they won't be alone. Hannah, though, is very upset by this. She does not want to have her ex-best friend coming back all of a sudden, thinking that everything's going to be fine. This is ruining her plan. She doesn't want to have to deal with him being around. And so she is not okay with this whatsoever because of the way that things ended with their friendship. And so when we go to Jacob's perspective, we see how he is also hurt by the fact that this is going to be happening, because he doesn't really know how to deal with this situation with Hannah, because he wasn't as badly hurt as Hannah was, but he was still very saddened when he tried to contact her and found out that she'd blocked him on everything. So she did hurt him too, and there was really no room for communication for them to fully understand why this had to happen to them and why they couldn't have just stayed friends long distance. But that's not what happened. So here they are, 3 years later, gonna be living in the same house and having to deal with that. Now, as you can see from the cover art, it sure looks like the two of them are pretty cozy and doesn't seem like they have any issues with their friendship. So we, just by seeing this, know that there's probably going to be some kind of reconciliation happening, and exactly how far is it going to go? Because, I mean, it is called Soulmates after all. Is it them that are the soulmates, or is it her and Nate that are actually the soulmates, and Jacob is just here for a summer, so that's going to really impact her plans to get Nate back? Is it? But it is definitely something that when I was reading, there were certain setbacks for me. There were certain things that made me feel like this really is not geared towards my age group. It's YA, and I'm not youth anymore. I'm not young adult anymore. I feel like I am getting to the point where, not that people my age can't appreciate and like these kind of books, because that's still totally a thing, that you can still like these books that are like if you really like teenage love stories, teenage drama, teenage, anything to do with that time period of your life, then yeah, you're gonna like it. And I used to think that I was still into that kind of stuff too, but after reading Tokyo Dreaming and Tokyo Ever After, if you've seen my reviews for that, I was kind of saying how some of the things in that was making me feel like maybe these books aren't for me anymore. And I started feeling like that with this too, that it's just the level of cheese for me that I just think sometimes they're a little cheesy in the dialogue and in the inner dialogue of some of these characters, what they're thinking in their heads. And I think, is that cheesy? Is that, to me, is it just to me where it's too cheesy, or is it just cheese for other people too? Or am I just looking at this in the wrong light? But for me, like, for example, this is one of the lines that's in this book. I suppose I should have mentioned that the reason that Jacob had to stay in Korea longer is because he ended up becoming an actor, totally just out of nowhere, got picked up by some talent scouts and ended up becoming an actor that is getting increasingly popular in Korea and even in the States. And so that's why he had to stay in Korea. And that's why this line is in here. But this is what the line says. I may not be fandom, but I have always been your biggest fan. And then there's some things in Jacob's dialogue, like when he's just thinking to himself and he's not actually saying these things out loud. But part of me just thinks, is this really the way that teenage boys think in their heads? Because I just feel like when I was at that age, just looking at teenagers now, seems like they do a lot of stupid, dumb things that are reckless, and like they don't really think about anything else about the actions, like the consequences that come to their actions, or they just are pretty selfish. I feel like I had some definite selfish moments when I was thinking I knew better than my parents. Like, that's just the way teenagers are. And so, like, reading some of this, I'm like, I felt like I didn't fully believe it. I don't know. But again, it's probably just, if I was reading this as a 16-year-old, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I love this. So I really do think it's a me problem and not a book problem. But let me know if you feel that way when you read YA, or if you love it. But here's another thing that Jacob says in his inner dialogue. I stop in my tracks. I have always loved Hannah's smile, but having been without it for years, every single one now is a gift. And I just think, I doubt that a teenager would say that. Am I wrong? I don't know. Overall, the story was fine. It wasn't anything that blew me away. It wasn't anything that I could say like, oh my gosh, I love this book so much, I just want to read it all over again. It wasn't that feeling for me. I didn't leave it feeling as satisfied as other books have left me before. So I guess it's kind of just a middle of the road book for me. I think that I do think that there was a lot of things in there that were good, but I also, again, I just have an issue. It's probably just a me problem because I'm reading books that are outside of the typical age that would be reading them. And I feel weird saying that because I feel like a lot of people my age still do like these books a lot, but this is like the second one in a row that I've read that I have felt like that when I've read it. So I don't know. I mean, I read A Pho Love Story, and that one, I feel like that one didn't bug me as much. And I also read I Love You So Mochi, which was another one that's based off senior year, and that one also didn't really bother me as much. So I don't know if it's just the way the love story is perceived, the way that the relationships or the friendships are spoken about. I think it just really does have to do probably with just that, the way that the love or the friendships are portrayed. And yeah, so it's just making me think, because I really do like reading love stories. I do like reading romance stories and things like those kind of books I do like. It's just, I guess it depends on how they are portrayed, how they are done. Yeah, I'm just kind of talking it out with you to see if I can wrap my head around what my preferences are now. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this book if you've read it. Let me know what you think about YA in general and love stories in general. And if you think that my experiences with this book are because of this book specifically, or if it's because of the fact that, yeah, maybe I just need to stop reading books that are set in high school, revolving around high school age kids. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Those are my thoughts on Seoulmates. Again, not a terrible book, but also not like a blow you out of the water book for me personally. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.